Hi, my name is Jillian Petraglia. I currently fight at the 176 female elite weight class for USA Boxing.
And how has boxing shaped your identity, both inside and outside the ring?
So inside the ring, definitely, it has shaped me in being consistent, being focused, having dedication and drive. And then outside of the ring, I think it's just shaped me overall as a woman. It has helped me grow. It has helped me mature. It has helped me find my way. Before boxing, I didn't do anything with school, nothing like that. It was more of just go to school, come home, sit around. And then when I did find boxing, I was like, I had something to look forward to every day after school. I had something to look forward to on the weekend. Then when I got into fighting and getting inside the ring, then I had something to look forward to for months, fight camps. And then after fight camps, you have the tournaments and we're traveling. So it has shaped me become more mature, but it's also helped me just mentally, emotionally be happier.
Tell us a little bit about your journey to get to this position of being ranked #1.
So my journey started when I was 17, and actually for USA Boxing, I was able to fight in the elite division, which is actually 18 to 40, depending. Sometimes they allow it. So I was 17, and there was nobody here in New York for me to fight. So they allowed me to fight older women at the time. I was still considered a novice. So a novice is somebody who has 10 or less fights. So I was in the novice division, but I was still fighting women who were in the early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, and I was 17. So we started like that, and we were doing everything. Anything we could get to in New York, we were doing. So we did the Metros, we did the Ringmasters, and then we also found out and realized that you don't just have to fight in New York. So we took it upon ourselves, and we traveled all over the U.S. We've gone to Louisiana, Texas, we've done just New Jersey, we've done anything. You think you can name it, we've probably been there. Ohio, and so traveling has, I guess you would say like my social status in boxing. And if it wasn't for traveling, I probably would not be the #1 today, because you need to do these tournaments, and these tournaments are away. So you have the nationals, you have the qualifiers, you have the Olympic trials, you have all of these tournaments that are in different states, and they're a week long. So to be where I am today, I would need to do what I was doing, was traveling. And so I started out as a little scrawny 17-year-old, and I was getting in the ring, and I had shorts that we bought from Dick's Sporting Goods with a penny and a pair of boxing shoes I think I got off of like Amazon for like $10. And then from there, now I'm fighting in the sponsorship Nike gear that I get each time I go to a tournament. So I was a little 17-year-old, and now I'm a 24-year-old, and I'm #1. So
That's awesome. And were there any moments in your life when you were almost giving up, or if you were, what kept you going?
There are definitely some times where I think, like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I do this to myself? Why this? Why that? And I think it's mostly when we go to tournaments and I know deep down that I won, that I did what I had to do, and that I was the better boxer, and they still give it to the other person. Because I've lost plenty of times. I know what it's like to lose. I understand how it feels. But there's just some times where you keep going, you keep showing up, and you're putting in the work and the dedication, and you're going in the ring, and you think you blew it out of the park, and they give it to the other corner, and they raise the other person's hand, and you kind of just stand there like, there's no way this really just happened. So there's been a few moments like that where I've really had to sit down and be like, all right, am I going to continue to do it like this? But I always say yes, because this is my lifestyle, and if I didn't have this, I don't know where I would be or what I would do, but I would not be where I am. The times I didn't give up, it's helped me to get me where I am now, so I'm grateful. But there are a few times where we sit there and I look and I'm like, there's no way that this was happened right now. But that's part of the sport. The judges do their judging. You can't argue. It is what it is. And you just got to pick it up and you got to keep moving.
How does it being a woman in male-dominated sport impact your journey?
I get this question a lot, but I actually think that it's better than most people think. Some people think it's a little hard and that you get judged, I would say, but it's not really. I've had a lot of men come up to me and they've been saying that I was one of the best female fighters they've seen. I'm showing up for the sport, I'm showing out. So I don't think that not that I'm a female and a male, I just think that we're all fighters. So I think they respect me in that way, where they don't think of me separately as just a female. They just picture me as one of the fighters, and they respect me as much as I respect them. So I can't really complain in that aspect that I've ever had anything like that happen.
Well, take us through a typical training day, and what does it look like for you?
So training day, we come in depending on what we have for that day. We'll either have a workout type day where we'll focus on strength training, and then we'll have a little bit of cardio. And then if needed, you can sit in the sauna after. Otherwise, we can have a boxing day, which is like technique. You'll have mitt workout. We do a warm-up, keep your body warm and stretched, jump rope. Or we'll have like a drill sparring type of day where you'll come in and you'll be with the guys and whoever else is here, and you'll go through and you'll just do some drills based off what you've been working on in the mitts. And then you'll have a little bit of just nice, easy, open sparring like that.
What specific areas of boxing are you focusing on when you're preparing for a big fight or right before a tournament?
So lately we've been focusing on a lot of forward pressure. We are a defensive boxing gym, so we practice our defense and then come back with our counter punches. But now we've been noticing with the tournaments that we've been going to, they look for more forward pressure. There's times where I've gone in the ring and girls have had zero defense and they just come forward with forward pressure and they were winning. So we implemented that into our training. We're still a defensive boxing gym. We still defend, we still counterpunch, but now when there's time for us, we go forward, we press, we come with that double jab cross hook right after, and we almost make it, we control the ring now, so our opponent is the one who's backpedaling and moving and trying to shuffle out of the way while we're aggressing towards them.
Do you have any rituals or routines before a big match that helps you get into the right mindset?
I just watched, this sounds funny, but I just go back and I watch like my favorite TV shows. I always bring my iPad when we're on the road, and it's not even some of them are not even boxing related. I'll watch the same show, like I'll watch like Glee or like Vampire Diaries or something like that. Something that I know I've watched before, I just go back and I rewatch my favorite episodes just to get me, so that way I'm not too nervous, that way I'm not thinking too much about the fight, kind of like calms me down in a way and makes me a little bit more at ease, and so I'm not like at the edge of my seat.
Yeah, absolutely, that's awesome. How do you recover physically and mentally from intense training or after a fight?
So typically after a fight, we get the whole week off afterward. We won't have to come in, we don't train and whatnot. We have a hot tub in my house, so I'm grateful for that. I go in there 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just to recover my body if I'm really super sore. Sometimes I'm not as sore as I usually am, but there are times where I've come back home and I'm like, oh. So I go in the hot tub, icy hot, massage gun, and then just a lot of sleep and rest. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the most challenging aspect of your training that people might not realize?
The most challenging aspect, I think, is just showing up. I think when you're here and you're in the moment, it's so easy to do. But there's times where I get home from work. I work a full-time job before I come here. So I get home from work and I'm so tired and I'm like, gosh, now I have to go and I'm going to work out and do this and that. So I think the hardest aspect is just being in that mindset. All right, let me go there. Let me get it done. I can do this. I have it. I think a lot of people overlook that sometimes, and they think the hardest aspect is the training itself. Most of the time, it's kind of not. You're here, you're doing it, but getting here and getting the right mindset to be here and do it is what is like kind of the toughest part.
You mentioned you work a full-time job, and then you come. How is it balancing that? Obviously, you kind of just briefly mentioned trying to balance work, life, training, and then work, you have to do demands at work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Tell us, I guess, what you do if you want to. And then...
So I actually am a local 25 electrician. So I'm on a construction site right now. And so it's a very physical labor job. So I'm using probably every muscle in the book there is when I'm there pulling wire. I'm so exhausted, I can't do it. Or I come here and I'm like, oh my God, I hope I don't suck today. Like, I'm so exhausted and I'm so tired. But I get it done, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to and that my body allows me to do it, because I know there would be some times where I worked my butt off all day for 8 hours, and then I come here and I work my butt off again for however long we're doing training for, and then I feel great afterwards. So
awesome. And how do you stay mentally strong when facing challenges or adversity, either in the ring or in life?
I talk to my family members, my coach, my sister's a big one. I talk to her a lot when I'm having like some mental struggles, because they still come around every now and then. I mean, I know I'm 37 fights in. I know that I'm mentally strong when I fight in my brain, but sometimes afterwards, if it doesn't go my way, the case may be, even if I win, sometimes I'm like, my head is a little bit on and off, but I talk to my sister a lot, and we just bond, we talk about it, we get it, helps work me down off that ledge, and I'm sure I do the same for her, vice versa. I talk to my parents, I'm grateful I have a great relationship, and I'm grateful I have such a great coach who really takes the time to make sure you're mentally in it, because sometimes you could physically be there, but you're not mentally there, and he knows when that is, and he can look me right in the eye, and he can even be like, you're not mentally here, what's going on, and we can discuss it and we talk through it.
Cool. And, what's your approach to managing nerves before a big fight?
So typically I'm not as nervous as I used to be when I was younger. Obviously I was a little bit more nervous, but my approach is I kind of just have a good time with it. They got music on, I'm dancing, we're just watching, I'm talking to whoever else is at the tournament, I'm making friends, I'm talking to the other girls and guys. So that kind of helps keep my nerves, if there are any, at a low, because my mind's a little bit more distracted at the time. When it's time to get in the ring and I'm standing there, I kind of I take deep breaths, like heavy breaths. And then when we walk out, I'm like, all right, and then there's no time to be nervous. So like from that time when you're standing there and they call your name to the ring, the nerves go away. They just trickle away. You're like, I don't have time to be nervous. I got to go in there. I got to do what I got to do.
Do you visualize your fights before stepping into the ring? And if so, what does the process look like for you?
I do visualize sometimes. Sometimes we're not as lucky and we don't get to see like video footage of the girl, but if I see her beforehand, like warming up or something like that, or I see her at the weigh-in, I just see what her physical body looks like, if she's muscular, if she's skinny, if she's tall, or if she's short. And then in my head, I'm like, all right, if I was her, how would my style of boxing be? If I was a shorter opponent, or if I was a tall, lengthier opponent, and that's kind of what I take that approach that way. And if she's shorter, I feel like she's going to be coming into me closer, so she'll be a little bit more wild with the punches, and then she'll be more an inside fighter. Versus as if she's taller and lengthier, she'll probably stay on the outside and do a lot of offense, back and forth exchanges. So I just do it based off her physical appearance.
And what's the most important lesson boxing has taught you, and how do you apply it to outside the sport?
The most important lesson boxing has taught me: no matter what, keep pushing forward. Just have the dedication and the drive, and no matter what, nobody will stop you but yourself. Nobody, no matter how many refs, no matter how many coaches or judges, no matter what, if you want to be the number one in the sport, you can't let any of them tell you differently. You just have to tell yourself, I can do it, and keep going.
What's some of your short-term and long-term goals in boxing?
So some of my short-term goals, we just met one, was to be number one. And I am in the 176, but now I dropped back down to the 165, I'm currently ranked number 10. So I would like to progress my way up to the top, hopefully be number one there and be number one. And I've been ranked in the 154, the 165, and now I've been ranked in the 176. So in my little bit of time boxing, I've been ranked in 3 weight classes, so I would like to be number one in 165 next for my short-term goals. My long-term goals, obviously, is to go professional. I see a lot of these not younger girls, but around my age, a little bit older. I see some of the guys that I went to the Olympic Training Center with. Some of those, they're starting to look to turn over to the professionals now, too. So my long-term goal would obviously be professional. Go there, try and make money off the sport, because you give so much to the sport and you dedicate and you give up a lot. And I feel like now, at some point in my life, I'd like the sport to pay me back a little.
What does it mean to you to be ranked number one in the nation? What's next for you now that you've reached that milestone? I know you're talking about going pro. What do you believe you have to do to become successful at a professional level, make that leap?
So being number one, when I first saw it, I actually was like, I don't really believe it, because we've been doing this for like a little over 7 years now, maybe 7 years, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, like 7 years. So I always see my name, but it was always 2, it was always 3, it was always 4 or 5 or 10, and it was never 1. And then when I finally saw it was 1, I did a double take, and I'm like, oh my God, I finally made it there. I finally did it. After all this time, I'm like, after going back repetitively over and over and over to the same tournaments, seeing the same people, fighting some of the same people over again, I was happy. I cried. I was crying from being so happy, and I just couldn't believe it. And then when I told everybody was ecstatic. So then I was ecstatic again. I was like, and it was just a really good feeling, and it made me feel like warm, and I just couldn't believe it, because this is long overdue. I feel like I deserve this the most out of a lot of people. And obviously, what I have left to do is I just want to continue to go to these national tournaments, and I want to continue putting my name on the board and working my way up to the top. And I think once we conquer the 165 and work our way to the top there, if professionals is in the books for us after that, we'll make that leap and we'll see where we are. But if not, I'm okay with continuing doing what we're doing in the amateurs, because I know the professionals will come for me one day, and I just want to make sure that I've done everything in the amateurs to help my professional career be successful. I want to be professional, but I also want to make the money. So I'm not going to go and not make the money. I would like there to be more tournaments under my belt, more wins, more rankings, and all that, because I feel like that'll help me succeed the most.
You kind of touched upon the next question a little bit, but are you considering stepping into international competitions and then obviously professional boxing in the near future? What is that like? You talked about kind of getting more wins, doing certain things. When is it like, all right, now this is the time we go pro? Like, is there something like the coaches like you and we have to go pro after this moment? Or
I think the only thing for women in general is like if you're on a time crunch, because again, it's easier for men in this aspect if they went pro earlier, or even if they went pro a little bit later on in life, because they don't have like their time is not running out. For women, the later you go, the little bit of harder it is. There's a lot of young girls in the game now that are starting to become professional, but also there are a few older women, and the only problem is these women went pro young and then they had kids later in life, so it's hard for them to bounce back a little bit. But I think if you have a good path and you know where you want and you know what's going on and you can put your timeline out, I think you can succeed anyways. You don't really see on the big TVs 40-year-old females, boxing for millions of dollars. Girls just hit like 6 figures, I think, this year for boxing. So, and these girls that are out there are all in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're dominating. So I think we have time still. I'm only 24, so my late 20s, early 30s, I think we will make that changeover and we can be just as successful as these other women are.
Now, talking about women just recently making 6 figures or more in boxing, seeing an event like the Paul versus Tyson event, even though that fight, the main event was kind of awful. Touch upon, I guess, the female fight that took place and the showcase that they were able to provide for the women fighters.
I mean, I think to this date, that was probably one of the best women fights that were out there. A lot of controversy on who won based on scorecard, but I'm just talking about the girls getting in there and doing what they did. That was an ultimate battle. They were both in there. They didn't know who was winning, who was losing. They were just battling it out. And I think that's why women should get paid the 6 figures for fights like that. Because there's sometimes you go and you watch like the Jake Paul fight. I'm not saying anything bad, but was it as entertaining as the women fight? Absolutely not. The women put on a show for all of those rounds, and they came out, and even though some people disagree with who won, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they just both were in there, they both were banging it out, and they both came out with a little bit of bumps and bruises, but they were both fine, and the only thing that did was help their social status, and they just walked out with 6 figures. So they have to be proud of that, and I was proud of that, and I was sitting there screaming and yelling at the TV when it was going on. And I was like, oh my God, I would love that feeling. They both have to feel like amazing about themselves after that. You can't not feel great after you just did that.
You also, once again, you kind of touched upon a little bit of this. As a top-ranked female boxer, how do you feel about the evolving recognition of women in boxing? But also, what do you believe it's doing for younger women to get into boxing?
I think it's shaping the way. I know when I first started, there wasn't a lot of women in boxing, and in the amateurs even. But now that I've been doing this and I feel like each year there's more and more girls that are signing up. So I started at the 154, and there was a decent amount of girls. Then the heavier the weight class you go, typically the least amount of girls there are. But I have to say, since we've been boxing, we have to travel to find them, but they're out there, the girls. And each year I feel like there's more and more and more trickling in, creeping in, and seeing. So I definitely think that women in boxing over the years has increased tremendously. And I think these younger generations and these younger females, especially because USA Boxing allows the younger kids to fight, they have 10 and under that box. I think that is paving the way for these younger girls who are going to be in the sport for probably many more years than I would be, setting them up for success in the amateur career. Without that, I don't think female boxing would be what it is.
Absolutely. Well, once again, another question I had, we kind of touched upon, was what do you think can be done to inspire more young women to take up boxing and feel empowered in the sport?
Yeah, it's just basically allowing them to start at the young age. As for me, someone who started at 17, it's a little more humbling than if I was to start, say, at 7 or 8 years old. when you're a kid like that, you don't really worry about anything. You don't worry about what people are going to say about you or winning or losing. You just go in there, you have fun, and if you lose, you just come back the next tournament and do it again. It doesn't really matter. So having these young girls in it now is going to help shape their mental game for them in the long run by far, because they're going to be exposed to it at such a young age. When you come into it a little bit later, you have to battle these mental hardships that are a little bit harder if you've never experienced something like that. So in my case, I've never experienced something like that before. I never thought like, oh, now I have to care what someone is going to think of me boxing. I have to stand in front of these 5 judges and they're going to tell me whether or not I'm good enough to be number 1. Mm-hmm. So these things go through your head and you're like, why do they get to decide if I'm good enough? Why not? Whereas when you're a younger kid and you're in there, you just go in there for 5 minutes and you're just banging it out with somebody, and then you hug each other after, and then you go get ice cream with them afterwards, and you're best friends. So I think that being younger in the game is what's going to help shape them mentally to make them the best fighters they can be.
Absolutely. I guess tell us a little bit about having like a support system, especially a female fighter, having like your father, your sister, and everyone around you. Just being able to have that support, knowing when you're getting in there, you got everyone behind you, win or lose.
Yeah. So I do have a very big support system. My mom, my dad, my sister, my coach, but I also have the people at my gym always texting me, always calling me, always saying, oh, how are you doing? What's going on? Is there a link to watch? Can we come see you? Are you fighting anywhere close soon? So I do have a great support system. I have a lot of friends that I've made through the gym that if it wasn't for them picking me up when I'm at my lows, who knows where I would be, if I would even be number 1 today. And I'm grateful because of my mom and my dad. If it wasn't for them, I don't know. My dad walked in one day where there's a guy on the ladder opening up a new gym, and he's like, oh, I'm going to bring my daughter here. And we came back, and look at us 10 years later, we're still here. So he did something right. And my mom, she runs the show behind here. When we're gone, we travel, my coach, my dad, and me usually. And my mom stays back. She runs the gym. She takes care of everything for us while we're gone. So if it wasn't for her, the gym would be closed the days we're not here. So she keeps it open and running. And with that, again, my sister, she's my sparring partner. She's my drilling partner. She's my best friend. She's my, if I got to talk to you for a minute, let me call you on the phone, or let's go in the bathroom and just have a chat, correct? Like, I just need a little, did I suck today? Did I not? So again, me and her have a very close relationship, and I think it's because we both box and we share this love for the sport that we are closer. I feel like if we didn't and she did something completely different, I wouldn't have this relationship I have with her today, and I'm really grateful that we both do this together.
And now she's also boxing, like you're mentioning. What does it mean when you see her box, and how does it make you feel?
I'm like the proudest. I'm there, I'm screaming, I'm yelling. I'm in the corner usually with her most of the time, alongside Mike, and it's because she's 5 years younger than me, so we have a little bit of an age difference. So seeing her go from a little girl to this like badass woman in the ring, punching, getting mad and angry, I mean, I love it. I think she's amazing at it. I think she's going to be great one day. And I couldn't be more proud of a sister than I am.
What do you do to unwind or relax outside of boxing?
I read. Sometimes I'm into like love novels and stuff like that. I read a lot. I also like DIY arts and crafts and stuff. I do a lot of like woodwork. I make signs, picture frames, stuff like that. Things just keep me busy, but it's also kind of relaxing and soothing. I have like my own creative freedom. I can make what I want when I want, stuff like that.
Also, and what's your favorite non-boxing activity to do when you need a mental break? Obviously, you spoke about a couple of them. What's your favorite one to do?
I think it would have to be like the woodwork. I really like enjoy that, and I just made like over the summer for like a lot of my family members, I made like welcome signs out of like plaques of wood. I sanded them, I cut the letters out, I stained them, I designed them all pretty and stuff. So I think that's my most favorite because it takes up a lot of my time afterwards, but I'm probably the most relaxed when I do it because, again, I have creative freedom. I can just do what my mind is telling me to do. I don't have to worry about anything. It's not going to be perfect because it's made out of wood. It's not going to look, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It can just look how I want it to look. And I think that's what helps me unwind the most because now I'm like just as relaxed as it possibly can be.
You're talking about letting it kind of look the way you want it to look. Is that kind of like a characteristic you bring into boxing when you're in there? It doesn't have to be fit the mold and do exactly like this. Kind of you go in there and kind of let your creativity flow?
Of course, of course. We always go in there with a game plan. We always go in there with what we think we know we want to do. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes the fighter across from you is not what we expected or thought. Or sometimes you go in there and you just can't do what you've been training. It just happens sometimes. You go in there, you have a brain fart. You don't know, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to throw a jab? Am I supposed to cage block? Am I supposed to do this? So sometimes you just got to go in there, you just got to do it. You got to have your creative freedom. You just got to, you know what, you want to just throw offense and do no counter punches or blocks? Fine. Go in there and just bang it out for 9 minutes. And then as long as you did the most that you could do, you got to be happy with that. So there are times where you have to have, you just got to go at it. And there's going to be times where you stick to the game plan. There's going to be times when you absolutely don't. And you're in there and you're like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? You just got to throw.
If you could train with any boxer, past, present, who would it be and why?
I would train with Clarissa Shields. I would love to train with her. I would let her punch me in the face with no headgear on. I would love to. I follow her on Instagram. I watch all her videos, her story, her movie. She's a real inspiration to the female boxers, obviously. She's all about the females. But I think as a fighter herself, I think she's better than the men. I think if she went in there with a man, she would absolutely destroy them. But I think I like her technical boxing when you watch her fight. I like how she's not rushing. She knows what she wants to do. She's dissecting the person across from her. She sees what they're offering. Like she just fought recently. Danielle Perkins, she just fought her. They both actually were at the Olympic Training Center around the same time years ago. So they both were Team USA. So I was excited to see how that fight went. Just to know the aspects. Do they have a similar way of boxing or do they not? They both grew up kind of the same way. They were at the Team USA, but no, completely different. So she was able to dissect her from across, and she was long, her opponent. Her opponent was like 6 foot, and she's not that tall. I mean, I think maybe 9. I mean, that's tall for a woman, but when you're standing next to someone who's 6 foot, you kind of feel like, oh man, I'm short. But no, she was able to get in on her. She was able to land. So if I could, I would go train with her in a heartbeat. I would love to have a day with her.
Well, what's one thing about you most people don't know, but you'd like to share?
One thing about me that most people... Well, I was going to say it's probably going to be the electrician part. Not a lot of people don't think I'm an electrician or I do anything like that. They see me and they're like, oh, really? Are you an electrician? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And then I tell them I'm a boxer and they're even more surprised. They're like, really? Really? But I just think I don't know. I think it would just be that I'm just a chill, normal person. Even though, like, some people say, like, if you ever notice, I feel like people who are ranked or #1, they kind of have, like, this chip on their shoulder, but I'm kind of not like that. I'm chill. We can talk. We can hang out. Well, you want to come train. You want to go grab a bite to eat. I feel like that's what people kind of don't know about me is I would be down to do anything and hang out at any time. People kind of think I'm, like, not like that at all. I don't know why. I feel like I'm the nicest person.
How did you get into an electrician and, doing that as a profession?
I was very grateful to know somebody who's an electrician, and I was doing a job before this, like insurance authorizations, and I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the desk job. It's not really for me, sitting at the desk staring at the computer all day. So I wanted something that was a little more hands-on, a little bit more physical labor. So I was talking to one of my friends, and he's like, yo, I can help you if you want. I'll take you down to the hall and we'll get started and all this stuff. So we went down there. I filled out all the paperwork and whatnot. And then the next day they were like, all right, let's go. You're going to start. And I was like, really? And they were like, yes. And then right in I went. And it was an adjustment, don't get me wrong, because it's not what I thought it was going to be at all. But I'm glad. I do enjoy it. I do have a good time there, and I'm learning a lot, and it'll take me far, hopefully. Or if not, I'll become professional and make millions of dollars one day, and I'll never have to be an electrician again.
Sponsors? Do you have anyone that helps you sponsor you?
I actually don't have any sponsors. Okay. Anybody wants to sponsor me, you can sponsor me. You can follow me on Instagram, though. My Instagram is my name, Jillian_Petraglia_. You can message me.
Awesome. Talking about, like, marketing stuff, we're doing this interview. I feel like branding yourself is like a big part of it. How much of that have you kind of like leaned into, I guess you could say?
And I would say that, like, when we travel, we post a lot on, like, the Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. Training sessions we post, sparring, pictures of us, this and that. So I do put myself out there. I don't have, like, a super big following on Instagram or anything like that. Not, like, such a big social media person, but I'm, like, starting to, like, kind of get into that. We've been doing TikTok for a while, too. We made a lot of TikTok videos. that blew up in a sense for when we were away. I believe in Louisiana, we did this funny TikTok and it blew up, and everybody there saw it and they were coming up to me and they were like, "Oh, I saw your TikTok, I saw your TikTok." So we were doing TikTok for a while, but I think it is super important, and I'm starting to really catch on to it more now and post like myself and my boxing and stuff to really promote myself, and hopefully maybe someone will see it and they'll be like, "Oh, yo, you want me to sponsor you?" And I'll be like, "Yeah."
Awesome. Well, Jillian, I appreciate you taking the time to talk, and if there's anything else you want to add, feel free.
No, I'm good. Thank you guys for watching.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks.